Ange.
Hey Les, how's it going?
It's going really well.
Good, good. Over here too. It's hot as but I went out for a walk yesterday. When I opened my door, I was like, what the blazes is going on? I don't know why I thought it had cooled down a little bit,
It's funny that
but
you say that because I hear that the East Coast is having a heat wave of some type or whatever. I'm still
right,
in Florida.
right,
You'll
right.
always know that I'm in Florida because my picture is always in my background because I like the orange. But I hear it's hotter in New York than it is here in Florida. It's about
Yeah,
80
it's
degrees here and about 99 in New York.
yeah,
Go figure.
it's really hot, but it was still I walked on the shaded side of the street and had a little moment because that's where I used to walk Topaz. So,
Oh,
but it was good to just get some fresh air.
all right.
So it's good to see you,
Well, welcome to another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, with
This
Debout, with Dea.
this young lady is wondering, like, who are these two old fools? Well,
What have I gotten myself into?
speaking of hot, we have a lovely guest today. I am going to allow this muralist. I'm not even going to say that she's a budding muralist because from what I've learned, you've been at this for a number of years. You're not a new artist. So,
Yeah.
Delia, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, tell what you'd like to know, and then we'll get started.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Delia, and I am a not budding muralist, like a professional muralist here in Central Florida. And I'm 20 years old, and I started painting. I've always been painting, but I started painting murals about 2 years ago when I graduated from high school. And I really just dived into it in the city where I grew up, Apopka. And I started to meet some more muralists in the area, and I got to work on even larger projects. So now I'm painting full time. And I also like to do a lot of canvas and fine art painting while exploring all the other things I'm interested in.
Wow.
And there are a lot of things that she's interested in.
Apparently,
We'll hear
we'll
about
get
it.
into that. Are those some of your works behind you?
Yeah, these are some from the time where I was transitioning into painting canvas work. And this is also done on wood. This is a painting on wood. And then
Oh,
when I started doing murals. So there's a lot of like little skills and tricks and things that go into painting murals that translates from the small canvases to the really large walls.
wow.
I see that one on um is that right or left? Your left, I guess. Over
Mm.
your yeah. Um because I have this whole thing which you may not know about black hair culture. So whenever I see depictions of the love that we share as black folks around our hair, it always makes my heart smile. So we'll talk about that because you may have to show up in another podcast on another topic. So
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I would love to tell people how I became acquainted with you and how my home is now graced with your beautiful work. Of course, I'm going to put up on our website and on our podcast page the picture of the murals that you did for me. And I must say, I'm her first residential mural.
She is.
Let me just tell you, Delia, I am many things, but one of the things that I'm very competitive to a point where it sometimes gets ridiculous. So the fact that I just said that I am your first residential muralist, man, that is so exciting for me. But anyway,
well, if I may, Leslie, I want to
yes.
ground this conversation in the the step that you took to reach out to Delia, and
You were
now to
there.
have this
Yeah.
beautiful, yeah, to have this beautiful work of art on your home, but also to have met this beautiful um, young person, and your life being enriched by her family,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so on. And I want to kind of ground it in um, in what our podcast is about. It's about choosing joy. It's about choosing to have the life that you desire. It's about having things in your life that just lift your spirits. It's about making those choices for yourself, and it's
Yeah.
about doing that boldly, especially as we get into our older years. It's about making those choices, and that's what Leslie did, and
Hmm.
it opened up all of this. She saw
Yeah.
something, she really liked it, she was like, "Oh, I wonder if."
Yeah. Yeah.
And she decided to check it out, and ta-da!
And and I come at it from a different angle, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Ange, because the angle that I come up that I start with is that there's something that I want, and then I make the steps to see if it's possible to happen.
I love that so
So
much.
yeah, yeah. And it was as simple most recently as I love being in a convertible. I didn't have a convertible, and I've always wanted a convertible. Now I have two. I've always wanted a convertible. And I just said, instead of spending another summer saying I would love to have a convertible, wait a minute, I can get a convertible. It just never occurred to me that it was attainable. you
Yeah.
know I can go so far as to say I've wanted to be a physician since I was 5 years old, and I just talked about it over the years and talked about it, and I'm like, wait a minute.
At 36.
At 36 years old, after having had a career as a high school science teacher, I said, Les, now it is about the time, why don't you try to get into medical school? you
Wow.
know
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
remember earlier this spring, and you and I were sitting in the backyard arguing over whether or not I can buy a table to match my lounge chairs. I looked at the wall and I said, some type of mural would be really good here. And now I have a beautiful mural that really just
Yeah,
transforms
it's
my
stunning.
space.
It's stunning.
And,
It's stunning.
stepping out from thought and desire to fruition, it wasn't a big step. I Googled muralist in my area, and you,
Really?
among other people, came up. I saw some press that you did around, I guess, some of your larger scale projects. And then, of course, we all have our doubts. So I said, nobody is coming to this little house in this little town to come and paint, and I just said, I reached out to you on Instagram, and you're like, yeah, that's something I'd be in. I was shocked. But sometimes it's that simple. You just,
Yeah,
Ange, this is something you've taught me.
yeah.
Sometimes just ask.
Just
Yeah.
ask. Just ask, because you can deal with the no, but what if you get a yes? It's a yes is and and plan for the yes. It's
Yeah.
you can get a yes. You can get a yes. Delia, what was it like when you got that message about
I was,
um
yeah, I was quite surprised
mhm,
because I've had one or two people reach out to me before because most of my mural, like the mural work that I get is through word of mouth or
mm,
past artists I've worked with. But I was like, I had to read it a couple of times. I was like, wait, is she asking me to paint at her house? And I was just really excited. And my mind started racing with a bunch of ideas and things
right.
like that. So I was really excited to get on a call and talk with her. But I really agree with your points of reaching out, and it takes a little bit of, I want to say delusion sometimes to just
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
really have that the reality in your head because that's how I started with murals when I was in high school. I was in an art club and they had talks about doing murals before, but it never really followed through. And I knew I really wanted to do a mural and I've never done anything like that before. So that summer, I think closing out with that school year, I emailed my mayor, the mayor of Apopka, and I gave him an idea and I was like, I've never done a mural before. I'm an artist and I really want to do this. And the idea I had was really special, which I think helped kind of vouch for it. The
Mm-hmm.
first Black city commissioner in Apopka, he has a park named after him now. And
Mm.
I really wanted to honor that. And he's still alive
Wow.
today. So I was able to meet him and
Oh,
photograph him. And I just pitched that idea.
right.
And without doing that, I mean, they won't come to me and ask me to paint a mural. You really have to like go out there, even though,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, a no is possible, but
Yeah.
without going out first, you really never know. And without that, I
No.
wouldn't
Right.
be anywhere doing what I am today.
That's amazing. And not only is if you don't ask, you're giving yourself the no. You're
Yes. Yeah.
confirming the
Yeah.
no if you don't
Yes.
ask.
For
You know what I
sure.
mean? So
Yeah,
give the yes a possibility when you ask the question. That
For
is, I
sure.
love, love that story, right? It's like y- you opened your mouth, you like had an idea, and it was only by just opening your mouth and saying
yeah, and it
it.
was hard. I was
Yeah,
very
it's,
shy in high
of
school, and I
course.
didn't
Oh
really,
my gosh.
especially someone I've never met or like a authority figure or someone higher up than me.
Right, right.
Same thing with reaching out to the muralist in my area. I'm actually seeing her later today. Maureen Huddis has been an
Mm,
amazing mentor to me. And
mm,
the first way I met her is I just sent her a message on Instagram saying that I really like her work. Would we be able to meet for coffee? And I can kind of learn some things about her process.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
2 years ago, yeah, we sat down and we've been working together ever since then. And it's
All
very hard to
right.
come out of that bubble and like just
It
It's
ask.
is
hard.
because
It's hard.
it takes self-confidence, and
Hmm.
very often
Yes.
we don't have that, so we have to
Hmm.
jump over that hurdle.
Is that something you guys
Um,
always had, or did you kind of have to find it with?
Well, I'd like to say that um, it's it's it develops. You have to practice it. It's just like grit or
Right.
it's leaning into that fear, a little or a lot of fear. You got to push against it because if you don't, then you don't have the confidence to know that you can do it the next time, right? So it's a practice really of feeling that discomfort and doing it anyway. And so we've been doing that over time. It's
and
this
that's
Yeah.
and that's
yeah.
one of the things that Ange and I say to each other all the time. You're afraid, so what? It's
Hmm.
hard, so what? You're
Yeah.
tired, so what? And we buck up against those barriers very often. But your question also takes me back. Ange and I became best friends when we were 15 years old in the 10th grade.
Wow.
So, one of the benefits I've had in my life of having you, Ange, as a bestie is that I was always able to allow you to push me
Mm,
beyond what I thought were my limits. There's that saying that your grasp should exceed your reach.
mm. Yeah, I love
So,
that.
if I'm saying that properly,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's yeah, you
yeah.
get it.
So the point is that when I would run things by you and say, I'm not sure if I could do it, I'm not sure if I should reach out. It might have been, if I think back to the conversation we had about the muralists, you always give me that assent to step out. And we were sitting
Yeah,
right there on
yeah.
those lounge chairs. And I said,
Hmm.
Mural, and you're like, yeah, that would be nice. And then I started Googling. Instead of saying like, oh no, I don't think you'd be able to afford it. or,
Right.
oh no, I
Right.
don't think that doesn't make sense. Nobody's going to come out to this little town and do this.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that we've not always had the boldness, but we've usually pushed through and pretended to have it.
Yeah.
Right.
And me, I got to also say a long answer to a short question is that as an anesthesiologist, every case is different, every patient is different. And I need to go into the operating room each time with a certain amount of trepidation about how the patient is going to do and how the surgery is going to do. You need to have that a little bit of anxiety or tension in order to do your job well. You never want to become too complacent. So I'm used to a certain level of that. But so what? And
So
Yeah.
here I
what?
have a beautiful mural.
I want to say something else really quickly too, because sometimes people, in our age group, um, they have some fears about social media, and kind of see it as this big bad wolf, and real life is the real thing, and social media is not. And this is another example, and I have many, of using social media to reach people who you wouldn't otherwise reach, and get them to
Yeah.
be something in real life, in your life, right? So um, Delia was not someone that Leslie knew. She wasn't known by her family or anything like that. She saw it, she liked, and we do support Black creatives, Black businesses. It's something that we just do naturally
Mm-hmm.
do, and so and we love young people. We do that too. There's so much to learn from people like Delia, which you will see when you hear more about her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and now she's real. She's
Yeah,
been in
here she
Leslie's
is.
house, but she
Yep.
met her, on social media.
Yeah.
Like, I have people who have been models for my wigs that I met on social media, and I drove up to one person, Jane Medley, who's a 60-plus-year-old influencer, and I met her online, and she said, "Oh, I'd love to wear your wigs in a photo shoot." And I drove up to Richmond, and we
Mm-hmm.
did a photo shoot in my wigs. I met her online. And I could go on and on and on, right?
Right.
You can still use the same filters that you would use in real life to filter, and you must do that, who you
Right.
would let in. But, like, turn on your spidey senses, and reach out to people who you think, for whatever reason, a
Mm-hmm.
need or some desire that you have, and see how it works out, and you can
Don't
always
let
shut it
fear
down.
be a barrier. Do make
Yeah,
common sense accommodations.
common sense, exactly. The
Mm-hmm.
same mother wit, common sense, wisdom, all the things. Use them, because we wouldn't be here with Delia. We wouldn't, you know what I mean? If if
Yeah.
if Leslie had kind of stopped there, and we both push each other, Leslie.
And
It's
and
kind of
and
the
I've
iron
even had
sharpens
some
iron.
people around me say, like, where did you find this person? Like you just have somebody come to your home, and I wasn't even around when you and your team
Yeah.
came to my home to
Oh, I want
paint.
to talk about that
But
team.
I said, I'll leave the doors open, whatever you need, come in and out. Delia stayed locally until she finished the project, and here we are. So,
I can't wait for
Delia,
you guys to see the
you did
pictures.
not come alone. You
I did
actually came
not.
with a team. So, tell me about that. So impressive.
Yeah, so I was telling my parents about the mural idea and the concept I had, and my dad is Jamaican, so he really liked it. And he is in the medical field, but he's creative. He's always been creative, and interested in the arts. So he's always helping me with, and sometimes it's not always the help I ask for, or some of like some critiques, or like
It's
you should do this, or this little dot
it's
right
parent
here.
help.
Yeah. So I he offered to come with me to help me because some of the supplies that I use are like quite heavy and it was a drivable distance. So um I wanted to kind of drive there, load up all of my supplies in the car. And so yeah, he was really helpful. And then 2 seconds later, my mom and my niece were like, "Oh, since you guys are going to be in the area, we might as well go for a little weekend trip as well. And then while you guys are painting, we could be at the pool or the beach." So I was like, "Okay." And then like before I know it, it's like a whole family trip. So
Yeah.
I can't complain too much because my dad was quite helpful. My mom, for a couple seconds, picked up a brush after like relaxing the whole time.
Mhm.
But yeah, like if there's really big blocks of a solid color, sometimes it's more useful for me to like work in the detail areas and just give my dad a really big brush of like blue paint and tell him to fill this whole area. And it's kind of like a paint by numbers thing. So
Wow.
it helps.
And I
Yeah,
had the
you'll
opportunity
see.
to meet your dad, and I did a little interview on him with him, which I'll put on our page for our Patreon subscribers.
Oh,
But
nice.
yeah, yeah, he was, I said, listen, my mom, everywhere we go, she says, my daughter's a doctor. I wonder how you react when you walk when you drive around Orlando and you see your daughter's works. So he started telling me about that a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Oh.
awesome. That's so awesome. I have to tell a little story, Delia, that I just started telling Leslie about this like 10 minutes before we started. Um, so as a young person, I was an artist and I took
Oh.
classes at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. My my mom signed me up for classes because I was always drawing and putting it up on my walls at home and so on. And she saw my talent, and so
And
I
she's
took
still so
classes.
talented in her drawing.
Mhm.
And so when I was applying to high school, I applied to the High School of Music and Art and the High School of Art and Design. I got into both of those for my art. And after that, I got into tech, Brooklyn Technical High School, which is where I met Leslie. And my brother was going to school at tech. He's 2 years my senior. And my parents said, okay, you're going to tech. Done deal. I didn't put up a
It's one
fight
of the
because,
three specialized high schools in New York, and you have to
right.
test to get in. So it's very
Oh,
academically
wow.
oriented.
Yeah, yeah, those are the top three. And then those two high schools were the top high schools for art. The High School of Music and Art is the high school that is became immortalized in the movie Fame. I don't know if you know that movie with Irene Cara. It's really old, but it was filmed. It was filmed there, and it was about those students.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow.
Fame.
so
I want to live
Oh, I think I've heard of
live
it.
forever.
forever.
I want to learn
I
how
want
to
to learn
fly
how to fly
high. All right. So,
high.
Delia, one thing you'll learn about
Yes.
us in every episode of our podcast, there's some reason for one of us to start singing. It's usually Ange, but sometimes I'll start singing. So, there we had it.
And
We
we
got
use
that shit. We ticked off that box.
I'm glad I
we
know.
we and we use singing very loosely because
Neither of us have that talent.
neither of us have that talent. So what I found out, maybe a week and a half ago, my sister reached out, and I don't know how she came to find out that one of those high schools, art high schools, I think it's music and art, um, had closed down, and I don't know how she came to find out. So she said, "Ange, didn't you get into that school for art?" And I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah." And she's like, "How did you learn how to?" And I'm like, "Remember, Mom put me in Pratt, and we'd go there in the summer, so it gave us all of these memories about what we
Mm-hmm.
did because we had to walk there and blah blah blah." Anyway, so she says to me, "You know, Mom actually came to me and asked me which school I should let you go to, whether she should let me go to tech or to I wanted to go to art and design." And I'm like, "What?" Mommy, my Cuban Jamaican mother, who education is like the highest thing,
She was an
My
educator.
my lawyer, college professor, engineer. Those are the four of us. That is what's typical. I'm the youngest. You just fall in line. That she actually considered allowing me to become an artist as my career blew my mind. I'm letting it like trickle into my spirit like little by little, because when I think about it for too long I get really overwhelmed, because it just speaks volumes to how she saw me, and just I so
And this came
seeing
up
your
10 minutes
father,
ago,
it came
exactly,
up
when I
to 10
mentioned
minutes
your
ago when I
father.
told Leslie. And Leslie, my mother was like her mother. I mean,
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
um, when you're best friends at 15, we met at 14, best friends, Anyway, so when I um, see your father being such a part of your work, and even the critiques,
The Jamaican
Yes.
patriarch.
right, like, talk to me about that. Has he always supported you? And yeah, like, can you share some of that with us about how you see yourself through your dad?
Yeah. Very similar to you, Angie. I Academia is very, very big in my family, and I'm the youngest. I have three older sisters, all in their
Mm,
40s, and
wow.
they all are in the field of medicine, all did the full college route.
Hmm.
And I've always been really interested in academics, and especially in high school. Um, I wanted to be like the top of my class, and I did so many advanced placement things and like all the classes. And
Hmm.
I applied to all New England schools, all the top 20 schools, the Ivy schools,
Hmm.
and I was just so confident with all my scores. I didn't apply to any like local schools or any safety schools.
Right.
And I go and open my college decisions, and I'm rejected from every single one of them.
No.
And that really like changed
Mm.
my outlook on everything. So it's like,
Right.
what am I going to do now? And
Right.
at that point, I it was really special because I realized how big competition was to me. And I think
Mm.
I was just so competitive, and I all of the things my parents had told me that are really important, I
Mm.
instilled within myself and held a lot of my like value in the academia. And I was like, well, if I can't do this, then like what am I? What am I going to
Mm.
do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so over that summer, figuring out what I wanted to study, and since middle school has always been medicine, changing like every month, like what do I want to study? Like is it an OBGYN? Is it a technician? I really just told myself what I could to keep myself interested in it when I really knew it wasn't my passion. And so I ended up convincing my dad to let me go to a local Florida school, UCF, for mechanical engineering. And you cannot imagine how hard that was.
That's
And
what my degree is in, my undergrad degree.
oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can imagine how hard that
like from medicine to engineering, that was a difficult discussion.
was. Hmm.
Um, but then, yeah, I got into the program. I was studying for a while, and I really didn't love it. And it was also confusing because I knew that I really enjoyed math and
Hmm.
really applying mathematics into different natural situations and things like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But I also wasn't loving it, and I really knew that I at this point after I graduated high school and I started to do the murals and work alongside Maureen, and I expanded my art a lot. I was like, this is what I really, really like.
What
And
a story.
it was hard because it's
Yeah.
like, can I make a living with this?
Yeah.
Can I expand on this? And a lot of it is the confidence and telling myself that yes, I can. There is a market
Hmm.
for it.
Yeah.
Art and commercial art is growing so much, and a lot of
Mm.
businesses pay a lot for art
Hmm.
and it's
Hmm.
valued. And so it was telling myself that, doing the market research, then also explaining to my dad again that no, I don't want to do medicine. I don't want to do engineering. I want to do art full time. I
Mm.
want to be an
Mm.
artist. And
Wow.
that was also difficult. But I think at that point, he had seen um, kind of what I was capable of. And the other artists in my area and saw that it's, yeah, a lucrative thing that you can um,
Hmm.
make a living off of it if you take it very seriously, which I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And I'm still continuing taking classes, and I'm going to get my degree, but
Hmm.
I am really focusing on art and
Hmm.
exploring aviation too, because I really want to keep that engineering side of it, but the world of aviation really was really interesting to me, and I really love it. And so
Mm.
that plus my art stuff is what I want to do. So I'm telling my dad I want to pursue being a pilot, and being an artist is it's still ongoing. And every day I still am shocked that he's the one coming to me now with ideas like, oh, you should do a mural about this, you should do a painting about this. And I was like, well, who's the artist now? But it
You
it's
like me
very
now.
slow. Yeah. And now that and I even paid my dad for helping me with the mural, and
Good for
my
you.
niece too. So
Good for
it's like a
you.
it's a slow process, but it's
Yeah.
really believing in myself first and making it what it is now.
Wow.
That's
So I
that's
asked you
incredible.
when I met you about the business aspect of it. You're 20 years old. You're an entrepreneur. You're a
Right.
professional.
You're professional.
Where do you get your business skills and knowledge from?
I didn't think when I was deciding to be a muralist that I was also going to be an accountant, marketing
Oops.
major, uh, everything that comes along with it. A lot of it is figuring out as I go, and then also the help of like all the mentors and the artists in the area, because
Hmm.
there are so many little things that you really just don't know, especially when you're working with larger commercial murals, like
Hmm.
licensing and
Yeah.
making a contract and who owns the right of it, the rights of
Right.
the mural,
Right.
and
Ooh.
same thing with pricing and how do I price a
Mm-hmm.
mural and how do I justify this price,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
from invoices to everything. A lot of it was learning on my own and then
Yeah.
asking for help from them, but there's still so much to learn.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I was thinking, just on the when you were talking about engineering, the first thing I thought about is the process of expanding your art from scaling it from whatever a 10 by 10 to whatever. I don't know how big you
Hmm.
go. That is a lot of
I know
engineering.
how big she's gone. Let's
How
say
big?
7 stories on the side of a parking lot.
No. Are you
Yes.
serious?
Yes, in downtown Orlando and Paramore, just a historically black town, we did a whole Black history focused mural, which is 7 stories tall. And I have a
Brilliant.
lift certification now. I can operate a boom lift for
What? Wait a
I
minute,
saw
Delia.
her
You're
with
not
her.
easy. What? Oh
Yeah.
my
I
gosh.
saw her strapped on and on a scaffolding.
Oh
I
my
don't think I
gosh.
would
That
allow
is
my child to do
amazing.
that. So when I came to you with my little project, you're like, no scaffolding involved. And you're like, yes.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. That's amazing.
How did that project come about?
That project was also through my mentor, Maureen. Um, there's a real estate women's group in Central Florida, and they really wanted to honor this area in Orlando that is now very gentrified, and
Mm,
it's kind of like the top tourist destination in downtown Orlando. But a couple
wow.
years ago, it was all black, and so there's a lot of portraits on the mural, and each person is an integral part of making downtown Orlando what it is today, from the
Mm,
healthcare field, the education field, and even entertainers. We have a lot of famous Black jazz musicians
mm.
that came in downtown Orlando and used that green book that showed them the safe places to stay.
Oh,
Wow.
And Dr. Wells was a really big figure, and he housed a lot of those musicians, and we honored him on the mural, and it
I've
was really,
heard
really
of
nice.
Dr. Wells.
Yes,
I've heard of Dr. Wells. Yes.
he delivered, I think, over 5,000 babies in Orlando, and also did a lot for the hospitality. And even me, that I did not hear about him before I did that mural. Half of the people on that mural I didn't hear about before.
Our
So
history is so covered, so I don't let that's another podcast. Um, but
Yeah. Yeah.
so you reached out to them and
Yeah, well, I
did this.
had worked with Maureen on another project in downtown Orlando, and I was one of the first people that she called to come be part of the team for that. It was
Wow.
me and um, two other emerging artists, or three, and they were all Black women, which was really cool. So we learned a lot more about the process and
Mm-hmm.
how to operate
Wow.
the lift
Mm-hmm.
and the whole big planning and execution that goes into this. A lot of money was raised through the
Right.
real estate women's group, and a lot of big donors like Magic Orlando and Advent Health
Mm-hmm.
donated for this
Hmm.
mural. So it was really nice to kind of see the back stage pass of how a mural like that comes to life. And it's
Right,
definitely
right.
everything I learned applies to how I do things now.
Isn't
Wow.
that wonderful?
How long did it take?
Uh, about a whole summer, I want to say 2 months or so of working
Wow.
every day in the really hot sun.
What? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't want to
amazing.
forget to get all of this information so we can put it in our podcast notes for our listeners so they
For
can
Yes,
sure.
reference it
definitely.
and look back.
For sure.
Um, and I might take a ride there today. And I would love to see it in person. So,
Yeah.
yeah, tell me where it is in Orlando?
It is on the side of the City View apartment buildings, um, in downtown Orlando, and I can give you
Okay.
the address. It's on my website, and it's right
Okay.
next to that big parking garage there.
Okay. Okay.
But
I might take a
yes.
ride there later on today. Um,
Because this is what you do. This is what you do.
It's also
All right.
illuminated at nighttime. There's lights installed, so you can see it 24
Oh,
hours. Yeah.
excuse
oh
me.
my
Oh, that's so
goodness.
cool. I
It
love it.
is.
All
How do
right.
you
You know I'm
feel
learning
like
about this
driving
pilot
by
business.
there? How do you, yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. But how do you feel like driving by there, in the evenings? And let's say if you took a friend over there and we're just driving in the
Just
car and
just
we
happen
just
down that
happen to
street.
be driving through City View Apartments and what do you think of this painting? Isn't this lovely? That's what I would do.
I love that.
So Ange, the engineer, wants to talk to you about your engineering aspirations. Are you in pilot school now?
Yes, I'm in flight school now working on my private pilot's license. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
I
gosh.
just can't believe that
You
your
know,
dad is allowing all of this.
Honestly, that was probably harder than the art aspect to say that, like,
really?
I want to fly commercial aircraft. And I always have these little interests and these little hobbies, like every couple months. Like, I got into welding for a little bit. I really wanted to do jujitsu and so many little things I have. So to tell him I was interested in aviation, I think he kind of saw it as a little another thing I wanted to do. But
Oh,
I think you're
shiny
wearing
nipple.
him out
well, I think I've
or
settled
wearing him
on,
down.
yeah.
This is the time. This is the time to do it. I think it's a beautiful, well, any
Mm,
time is the right time to explore your interest. Um, I think it's a beautiful thing when young people kind of um, come to understand what they really love early on.
yes,
Sometimes
yes.
we wait so long to pursue our dreams, and so I love that you my youngest is like that too. I mean, he's found what he loves to do, and he's in school for it. He's studying construction management. He's always been interested, always, and he loves it, and he's going through school so differently than if it were something that I imposed on him, or that
That's the point.
and it's I'm so happy that he found his and that he's moving forward with it. But one of the things that you mentioned too made me see, because we often think of this or that, it's you're an
Right.
artist or you're an engineer or but things intersect. There I am again with the intersections. We have to look for those, and engineering shows up in you being a muralist, right? you you
Hmm.
Yeah,
you
for
have
sure.
to, in order to scale, you have to know angles
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
how to project and things like that. So it's all in you. You don't you use your gifts in different ways. So it's all in there.
But
It's
also,
all
it's a
in there.
courageous endeavor, being honest with yourself
Yeah.
of what your where your passions are, and not really
Hmm.
caring what other people think of those passions. And then you take the step to express it to your family,
Yeah.
Exactly.
you know?
Right.
And you know what? I like this not caring. You can care, right? The idea that, and I know you didn't mean it this harshly, Les, but I think sometimes people do. Like, well, I don't care about what people say. And so if you do care, it's like you can care about what people say. It
Yeah,
can it
yeah,
can it can bother you, it can make you rethink. It may even allow you to come up with your counter
yeah,
proposals
yeah.
differently
It could
to
prep
to
you for the
to
conversation,
Right.
exactly to
seeing
think
both
about
sides
how
of these
what might
things.
they say
Yeah,
what
yeah.
and prepare for that going in. So you can care about what people say, but I think the point is to not let that stop you
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
doing, to bring it in. You can get advice, right? You don't reject advice, but bring it into what your heart is telling you, right? And how the spirit is leading you, and still and persist, right? It's the and it's not stopping when there is resistance.
Yeah.
It's doing it anyway, right? Those things don't have to stop you. They ought not stop you.
That
And so you're
reminds
such an
me
example of that.
of a conversation I've had with my 15-year-old nephew, Kenji, who was here with me for a few days. And he's really into gaming and coding and things like that. And I've talked to
Nice.
him and I said, what is your passion? What is it that you would want to do if you could do anything, and that at age 15 is what you should spend your time and energy doing, and see
I
what you
agree.
feel about it and what have you. See if it enriches you and brings you joy. Can I do it when I'm tired? Is this what I want to do? Those are the ways that you find your passion as early as possible.
Hmm.
If there are
Yeah.
no restrictions, I know you've said that to your eldest son. If remember when you said if you could do anything
Oh
you
yeah,
want, like
yeah,
go ahead,
Johnny,
talk about
yeah.
that for a minute.
Well, he went the typical family route. All my children are, well, Isaiah has one more year, but graduated, did well in college, and we were sitting around at the dinner table, and I said, Johnny, if there were no restrictions, what would you do? And he gave me some half-assed answer. Johnny, money is not an object, place is not an object. Just what would you do? And that's when my son revealed to me that he wanted to do acting, voice acting, and that he'd been thinking about it for years. I'm like, you never told me that.
Mm.
And I'm like, do you know who's in your village? Like, do you know?
But he probably was afraid to tell his engineer
He
mom,
yeah.
Jamaican engineer mom.
Well, yeah, but I think, and one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur is to show my children that there are other ways to get to the goals that you have. It doesn't have to be to work for someone to get there. You can
Hmm.
you can get there in other ways. So I think he knew that. I think though, he is the child who, he's great at planning. And when you're great at planning, you're always thinking about all the things that could go wrong, and you plan around them, right? You try to avoid them because you're thinking about them. Well, I think that was interfering with the way he thought about his life. He was thinking about the things that could go wrong, not the things that could
Mm.
go right. And I got him to reframe, and like, this could actually happen. Well, 2 years later, Ajani is living in LA. He started taking acting classes because of a connection I made for him. One of his aunties in the village from high school is out there living it up in Hollywood. Two of them, actually. connected him, went to acting school, then moved out there, and now he has an agent.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's using so much of the skills that he learned in college. He did political science, but the way he researches, the way he can develop his position and say it succinctly. People
Hmm.
think that college is just about that particular specialization that you have, but what college can do, should do, and what you should allow your children to see college as is a way to develop as a person, right? To think critically, to be able to problem solve for yourself, figuring out how to let your money stretch, right? If you just have a few coins, how are you gonna,
Yeah.
if you want to buy this thing, get a little side, get a little job, like all of
Paint a
those things are
mural.
part of the development that you get, and sticking to something for a
Right.
Yeah.
period of time.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Those are the things I
Sticking to
think
something through adversity
through
or
adversity.
failure,
Yeah,
because
right, right.
I said to myself, if I don't get into medical school my first time applying, I'm not sure if I would try it again, if
Mm,
I would apply again. Thankfully,
mm-hmm,
I didn't have to put that to the test.
right.
But at the time, here I am, 36 years old. At the time, I was a single parent. Omari was, however age he was, a little boy. So I had a lot of reasons not to keep trying.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had already started a career, having gotten a master's in education and all of this. But I said, you know what? If I want to be an example to this child and show him what, much like what you were saying, Ange, that the sky's the limit if you can step out boldly,
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah,
so every time
yeah.
you present one of your ideas to your dad, I think he sees that in you. He sees that you're capable, he sees that you're
Hmm.
thought out, and he sees your passion. And then
Yeah.
he's also probably tired.
Probably. That's the
I'm
trick.
helping her paint, I'm
Yeah.
listening, no, I'm enrolling her in flight school, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
This is
amazing.
wonderful.
Can
Well,
you
I think we're
quickly?
about at the end, but go ahead,
Is it
Ange.
time? Is it time?
Yeah.
Um, I just want to just really honor you, how you share your gifts with the world, right? It's it is uh, it's not a given that you are willing to kind of put yourself out there in such a big way. You're a
Hmm.
muralist. You're not just an artist, and I say just not in a minimizing way, but your stuff is big. Thousands and thousands and
Literally
thousands
big.
and thousands of
Right.
people see your work, right? I mean, that's such a testimony of courage and belief in yourself, and pushing through. I know that sometimes people think that when you're in big places or on big stages, Kim tells us this all the time. She still feels that little bit of fear before you go on stage, before you know go into a new production. But it's like
Hmm.
you still do it. You believe in yourself, you know your craft, and you do it anyway. And so I
Yeah.
love, 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 love that you, at how old?
20.
20.
And she just turned
20,
20
not
a
20
week
something,
ago.
20, two and a two and a zero, that you have found this and you have decided to share it with the world, and now share it on Leslie's Home. I cannot wait to see it with my own eyes.
Thank you so
So,
much.
so very proud of you. So
Yes.
proud of you. And we're here as elders. If you need anything, please include us
For
in your
sure.
village, and ask away, because as we said at the beginning, you may just get a yes.
You.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
All right,
thank you,
Les, I'm not
everybody, to
interrupting you
listening
anymore.
to another creative episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.